For my injury reduction project, I chose to choose concussions in the sport of cycling, mainly because I recently had one and I have noticed small but existent symptoms weeks after the accident. My big question regarding the reduction of concussions in cycling is dealing with the after effects more so than dealing with preventing the concussion itself. The helmets used in the sport today are top of the line and have already been for years working on improving safety features, and in reality preventing a concussion when someone hits the ground at super high speeds is it's almost impossible unless they have like a full face mask on, which in the sport they don't wear full face masks. So I really want to talk more about what happens after the fact. It seems like when you get a concussion, you're in the hospital, the doctor tells you that you sustained a concussion, then basically tells you you're fine to go and you leave. The discussion of how to deal with post-concussion treatment, in my opinion, needs to be improved as to prevent long-term damage associated with concussions. First thing, I think, after a cycling crash, or a cyclist is involved in a crash, they should be assessed for signs and symptoms. Signs and symptoms such as severe neck pain, double vision, severe or increasing headaches, or just unusual behavior in general. If the athlete or just person riding to work is experiencing any of these symptoms, they should not be allowed to continue with their race or ride, no matter how much they say that they want to continue. So those are the first things, like right after you get a concussion, that should be addressed. But in my opinion, more importantly, the long-term steps are really what make a difference in your recovery. What I found from my research is that the most important thing is to take time off work, because when you're either at work or school, you spend a lot of time thinking critically and stressing potentially, which does not help with concussion recovery. Also, to get a lot of sleep, avoid bright or loud rooms, and most importantly, limit the time spent on cell phones or computers, which is actually really, really difficult considering every day we use our cell phones, we use our computers, we watch TV. When we go to class, there's presentations, and the class is generally taught on PowerPoint. Also, those classrooms are really bright, so it's hard because they suggest 2 to 3 weeks off, which I don't think any of us could take 2 to 3 weeks off and still pass all of our classes this semester. So yeah, that's one of the most difficult parts, is I think the recovery. Also, as an athlete, they need to take time off their sport until all the symptoms are gone, especially with cycling, because you're riding a bike at high speeds, and if your brain isn't working properly, then it just leads to a much more dangerous, just like you could crash again really easily. Also, so what I believe with, like, from a doctor's standpoint, is I believe CAT scans or any type of x-ray on the brain should be like a more common thing, like with any type of concussion, depending. I know, like, you say that all types of concussions are, like, it doesn't matter how severe it is, it's still a concussion, but I believe that anyone should get a CAT scan or some kind of x-ray after the fact. So this will allow the doctor to get, like, a better idea of the extent of the actual injury, like how messed up they really are, or exactly how to deal with the recovery. I think also that there should be plans put in place, like things you should be doing daily to help improve your brain or improve your injury or whatever, as well as schedule doctor visits after the fact to continue to check up on the athlete or just person in general that has sustained the concussion. Also, so I think the issue of head injuries in sport is often overlooked because of how scary they actually can be, They, in my opinion, should be regarded as one of the most talked about subjects in the sport injury world, because in the end of the day, your brain is and will always be the most important part of your body and well-being. I think a lot of times people don't want to talk about the fact that they got a concussion. Like, a lot of the times people will have a crash, or even in other sports like football or whatever, will get a concussion, they don't talk about it, and no one knows they got one, but they're dealing with symptoms way after the fact, and they don't want to talk about it because it is such an important part of who you are as your brain, and it's scary for people to talk about, because when it's not functioning correctly or it's giving you just issues in general, it's something that is very concerning. So I think the discussion needs to be brought up more often. And also, yeah, if you are sustained with one, you should be regularly checked up with a doctor and be discussing with any type of health professional after the fact on how you're doing and whether or not you're ready to compete or go back to just riding in general. So yeah, that is my injury reduction project on concussions in the sport of cycling.